Yeah, when I first started coming in 2021, had about 7 people turn up. We are now to an average count of at least 25 for most of our meetings. Something we really did was push our media efforts. Originally we only had Facebook and Instagram, and we found out youth were not using these platforms, so we got a TikTok up and running. Yeah, no, I laughed at it too. We initially raised our compensation rate. You used to get $10 for the class and $10 for meeting. Now you get $20 for both. We changed the gift cards we were giving out from Food City or gas stations to Walmart, so they could get like household items or minor medication or stuff like that they might need that they couldn't access with those gift cards originally. We also restructured it. Originally there wasn't really much of a leadership structure. We did hold like officer elections and stuff like that, but the officers were not integrated into other agency partnerships or with the greater part of the coalition, so it didn't really have a whole lot of weight to it. So we started reaching out to our adult community partners and asking them to like mentor or give YAB a seat in decision-making powers, or to come in and to meet YAB and to talk to YAB. And then we held our officer elections, and now our officers are elected based off of like their community connections that they made in their own time and their ability to network and like the things that we've already seen them accomplish within their communities with the resources that have been allowed to them through YAB. And because of that, we were able to make more changes. We were able to table at Knox Pride's Pride Festival and gain a lot of community interest, and even raise some funds for merch that our entire board designed and created through partnership with Knox Pride and stuff like that. So as it started becoming more and more evident that we were taking steps to be seen, taking steps to let them be heard, and taking steps to be out and visible in the community, other youth started showing an interest, and because of that it's evolved into a much bigger process and a much more integral process to ending youth homelessness than I think it originally was. Yeah. Yes, if you come for the enrichment class and you sit through it, you get a $20 gift card, and if you sit through the entirety of the YAB meeting, afterwards you come up and you get another $20 gift card.
And food. So.
We were getting a lot of pushback about the stipends for the youth, for the YAB. But there was this big push, again, because nationally we need to get people with lived experience. How do we get them into these meetings? And I just kind of like, well, would you show up to this meeting if you weren't getting paid for it? No, you wouldn't, because it's boring. You're not seeing a whole lot of outcome. The outcome is going to take a long time, and it may be after you're long gone. So you're showing up for a paycheck. These youth should be compensated as well. And again, like the information from the YAB is taken and it's put into grants. So like the reason why we're able to give the youth these compensations like we do, the $20 for the class, the $20 for the community meeting, is because Jasper and I wrote grants for it. And like we put down what we're doing in the YAB, how many youth are coming, what's the content that we're covering, and so we ended up getting 4 different grants, to help sustain paying the YAB. And a big thing that, I think the biggest pushback is there's just such a misconception about youth homelessness. Even when Mayor Kincannon came in, God bless her, she posted about what we're doing on, social media, and people are just all like, but are they working? Asking like these really insensitive questions, and again, it just goes back to the misunderstanding. And I think it's incredibly unfair that it has to be these young people like Jasper and Skylar that have already been through so much trauma, so much, terrible experiences, that they have to be the one to educate the community about what it's like to be homeless, and have to be asked these questions. I mean, I'm not gonna say how old they are, but they're both like under 25, and having to tell 40, 50, 6-year-old people, well, I'm having a hard time working right now because I'm struggling with homeless, because I don't have an address, because I can't take a shower every day, because I don't have the skills, because I'm struggling with mental health and I can't access care. It's incredibly unfair that, anybody that's in a position like this where they have to explain to people why they're going through what they're going through.
Well, and some people won't listen. And I'm comfortable sharing my age. I'm 19 years old. The average 40-year-old would understandably go, why would I listen to you about anything? You are practically a fetus. But I have found that I have to be 10 times as smart, 10 times is more pulled together. I cannot have a spot on my clothes or wrinkle on my shirt to show up to these meetings to have people give me half the year they gave to somebody who has been sitting and doing nothing on their desk for 30 years. And that is the attitude that we're trying to change, because we have gotten so much more comfortable societally to say it is better to be horrible at a job that pays your bills than it is to be passionate about something that doesn't. I have gone into discussions about poverty, given the details of the job that I do, and had people say, well, do you have kids? If it's so hard for you, go get another job. And I'm like, you want to, Little Miss Bible verse in your Facebook bio, you want to ignore hungry, homeless people. And it's gotten to the point where you can hand people data, you can hand people graphs, you can hand people international studies on the issue of poverty. They don't want to hear it, because hearing it would require them to accept that there could be something to happen to them. They could break a leg, they could lose their job, they could miss a car insurance payment that will bring them just as far down to our level as we are now. One of our media efforts, it's so important to say, hey America, you are closer to losing everything than gaining anything. And that's a difficult concept for people to swallow.
With building off what they said with like homelessness in general, people assume your parents will just take care of you, that when you're below a certain age, you shouldn't be homeless, you shouldn't have issues, you shouldn't have these problems. And so they don't even think about it. Like, I've known kids who are like 13 on the streets, either because of like LGBTQ or because their parents are gone, or their parents just aren't mentally or physically stable enough to take care of them. Like, when I was younger, I got my first job at 10 years old because my parents just couldn't afford stuff. We've always been poor. And so it makes sense my parents can't take care of themselves, let alone us. So when I was 18 and I finally had to leave, I had nowhere to go. And so there are a lot of kids like that, and no one thinks about that, and no one remembers that, kids don't always have these resources.
And they want your deep personal story. They're going to start with the assumption that you are a bad kid. Oh, did you get into stuff? Your parents love you. They never have that justification. And you feel this pressure to, write your biography for a total stranger just so they will say, okay, your life has a little bit of value. And, Lord, that has been one of the biggest things we've ever seen. We as a YAB have tested this. We have sat down with, homeless management information systems, and we have given data to people. Nothing. But the minute kids stand up and they start talking about how they've been raped, how they've been starved, they've been beaten, they've been sleeping under bridges or under cars even, now people want to listen. You have to subject yourself to spectacle to be dignified to the same level other people are.
And so that's kind of what we've been doing is so other kids who maybe are a little more traumatized or can't talk about it yet, since we're a little more comfortable, it's been a minute, we can, scream at the rafters about this is happening, people are dying, and so we are the voice to make people listen.
Well, there's a real cognitive dissonance. They don't understand that when the only choices you have in your life available to you are bad ones, those are the only ones you can make, because they've never been in that position. And one of my biggest gripes coming into YAB was, why are we taking orders on issues related to homelessness and poverty from someone who's never been hungry and never known how to fix that?
So for Youth WINS, we have program manager, and right now we have 3 case managers, and then we have our youth community engagement coordinator. So that's getting ready to shift a little bit because I'm moving into another position, so it's going to be 2 case managers and a program manager and youth community engagement coordinator. But for the longest time it was just me and one other case manager, and it was really a huge struggle for us to maintain because we serve roughly about 125 youth a year, which is a lot, especially for 2 people with all the services that we're doing, and we're trying to coordinate the Youth Action Board and get all the services together. So all that to say, it's great that we have 3 case managers right now, and that we've had the most successful year that we have ever had in the entire time. I've been here 3 years. So typically we would house maybe 15 youth a year. Already housed 23 youth from January to May, which is a huge success for us. So like, let's try and do 25. You know, so we've already exceeded our expectation, and we hope to continue to exceed that, and that just comes through community partnership. And then having Jasper on, you know, we just saw it as, you know, just the right thing to do, to hire somebody that does have that lived experience, that can go into these meetings. Because again, you know, we want people with lived experience, but how are we compensating them? So what better way to do that than to hire someone with lived experience to kind of do that dual role of being in the Youth Action Board and leading it, having that experience, as well as taking, well, when at YAB, this is what was said. And like Jasper said, through the last year, there's been just so much progress, and because there's just dedicated youth that want to see a change, like Skylar. You know, I kind of had to twist his arm a little bit to be a chair, but he's so eloquent and he has so much good things to say, you know. And so now, like today, you know, Skylar went to the executive committee for the Knox County Homeless Coalition, so it's more voices going in, and I would love if we could hire more youth that could share that experience, that can really drive that change that is so necessary.
To add on to that then, younger kids even, because like, you know, Coyote's always yelling about it in the thing about trying to get them while they're in the high school still. Because when I was 16 is when my family was definitely at risk for homelessness, and there was many a times where, to save money, me and some of my siblings who were like old enough as the family decided to live on our own for long periods of time, which means that we were homeless for like long periods of time, sleeping at parks and stuff. So me and my younger siblings were homeless so that the household would be cheaper for my family, so we could still pay the rent during those times. So we would sleep at parks, we would couch surf with other families and stuff during summer vacation. The, you know, school programs and stuff that like you could pay for like $15 and you'd be taken away for like 3 months. We would do stuff like that. And so if I knew that there was another option where there was a community that I could have gone to, and I know for a matter of fact that it has gotten worse during the COVID and stuff like that. My younger brother's still in high school, and I've been reaching out through him to some of the kids that are homeless. And in his school, despite the fact that it is a charter school and you have to be decently wealthy to get into it, or you have to have some kind of like program or other stuff, about 15 people in that school are homeless. And so I've been trying to direct them to services in their area and trying to get them to like, but unfortunately where they're at is in Strawberry Plains, a little farther from us. But being able to spread out and eventually, you know, catch everyone would be great.
Right now, the only program that I'm aware of for homeless youth is this one, and we only serve Knox County. So I get calls from surrounding counties, but our funding is central to here. So a lot of times I have to say, you know, like if you can get to Knox County, you know, if you can, and sometimes they can't. And then for the younger ones, I think, well, I don't think I know, it's a lot harder for them to get out and access services because then we bring in DCS, right? So if you admit to your teacher, your school, you're struggling with homelessness, then all of a sudden you have a DCS investigation, and you know, you're going to feel a lot safer being with your family, no matter how chaotic that may be at the moment, versus going into something completely unknown. If we could do more programming, I think it'd be great if we could have another youth that we work with. And at the beginning I mentioned that, you know, re-entry for youth homelessness is much higher than first-time entry for youth homelessness. And while our program works really hard to follow youth along once they're housed, again, because we're serving roughly 125 youth a year, we can't always give them the services and the follow-up that is really needed. So I would love if we could have another case manager that's just like housing stability, like, okay, now you're housed, and like do like those house visits, and you know, talk, like, you know, so when they get in, like I told Scott, I'm like, well, we're gonna have to work on a budget, you know, and they know where their lease is, you know, but a lot of youth, they don't know that, they don't understand the rules, or they don't have a safe adult that they can talk to about, you know, like my landlord is saying this, that, and another, and I don't know how to handle it. Things that like I'm a parent myself, and like I understand like just how lucky my dads are, you know, to have someone to talk to, because a lot of these youth, you know, and that's how, when I was growing up, I became homeless when I was 16, and it was impossible to go to my parents and talk to them about things I was struggling with, about, you know, being sexually assaulted, you know, just, you know, how do I get back into school, you know, and a lot of those things didn't happen for me until I was much older, and I started to figure things out. But from like 16 to 23, I was lost, you know, and that's where a lot of these youth are as well. Like by the time they get to that like 23, 24, like they're set in their ways, they've kind of figured things out, but you know what, you're carrying kind of trauma with you, and you're carrying that for the rest of your life, and you don't really find a way to resolve it. You just pack it away, and now you got an adult. So I mean, again, I just think it'd be great if we just had another case manager that could just help these youth, like, okay, now you're in housing, now let's stop, now we're not in survival, now we're in stability, let's talk about what stability looks like and where do we go from here. Because again, like, you know, getting into housing does not end the homeless problem. There's still so much that has to be figured out.